a kid, we decided to take a trip. And when you take a trip, you invite all the relatives. So we had a pretty large group, and took a lot to get the tickets for everybody, get a transportation to the airport, all of that kind of stuff. And the confusion that morning was terrible. And everybody got to the airport, got on the plane, and then remembered they forgot somebody. Oh, wait a minute. That wasn't me. That was Home Alone. Hey, hello. This is Don.
And this is Gina with Focused Healthy Family.
And this is podcast number 223. And today we're talking about being home alone, and we're kind of going back over stuff we've kind of tripped on along our path here with um, aging at home. We've
No
kind
pun intended, we've tripped on these ideas. We've touched on them. Um, but yes, and the challenges of remaining home alone as people age and being, if they're widowed or single um, but before we get into the serious stuff,
oh yeah.
we have a few jokes. The first one, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with the Home Alone movie. My parents decided throw me a Home Alone birthday party, which was really easy to pull off since all they had to do was leave. But bump. Um, if there's anyone out there who has no family and is planning to stay home alone this Thanksgiving, please let me know. I need to borrow some chairs. I thought there was a better one in here. I don't know. That's enough bad jokes. Don, you got a tip for us?
I got one. And so if you want to be alone, let's go the other side of it. If you want to get rid of unwanted intrusions, this is a tip from our dear friend at Care 101, 101 ways to keep caregiving from making you crazy. This is tip number 54. It's called unwanted intrusion. Create a quick and easy way to get rid of unwanted visitors, sales calls, either on phone or at the door, family and friends. Learn to say no and hang up on the telemarketers. Well, that was pretty simple. Just say no. Um, but yeah, like I said, we've crossed on this, and we've always talked about it's fun to be able to stay at home and live your life there as much as you can. But there are some dangers to it. There are some things that and what I was thinking is we might put in well, I gotta turn my voice down here for some reason. Um, we might play a couple of remember we made um those different things about the house, different videos.
Yes, yes, we
We
can
might
share
throw
some
some
of
of these
those.
in there as we do this because we want this to be everybody to hear about these different things and understand what it's about. So I found some articles on it and just wanted, like I say, we've touched on a lot of these, but thought I'd at least touch on some of one of the first ones they talk about, of course, is falls. And, and what's tough about it is that a lot of times these falls, they happen, they sometimes don't get noticed and for hours, even
Or
days.
days. I hear this story all the time. Recently, new lady that moved to where I work several years back, she was living, and I think it was like a 55 plus apartment building. So it wasn't an independent living per se, but it was kind of senior apartments of some sort. And her friends hadn't seen her in a day or two and told the managers, and the manager's like, we can't unlock her door. We're not allowed to do that. Um, well, somebody came, family member or something, and got in, and she was on the floor. She had had a brain bleed on her head,
Oh my.
and caused her to fall and lose consciousness. And amazingly, she lived through it. I hear these stories all the time talking about falls, Don. Um, People have a life alert, but they take it off to get a shower. They leave it in the bedroom. They fall getting out of the shower.
And isn't that one of the biggest kind of, I thought I heard some statistics that falling in the shower, really for anybody, but especially for seniors, was
In
one of the,
general, the bathroom, and there's so many ways to hit your head, whether it's a glass door, ceramic tub, the
yeah.
tile floor. It, it's never good to fall. But to fall wet, slippery surface, I mean, that's the big reason. People don't realize how much energy it takes to take a shower. And if someone is compromised with their health and they think,
Mm.
oh, I can get myself dressed fine, I can take my own shower. It takes a lot of energy to take a shower. It's a tiring thing.
I remember it from my heart attack and how I was
Yeah,
tired and
we got you a shower seat to sit on. Do you remember?
yeah, and even that was could be tough after a while too, if you're really worn out because you can fall off of those too, just as,
But then, so then you've taken the shower, right? You're a little bit tired because your health is compromised and you're still recovering, whatever the circumstance is, and then you have to step out, whether it's over the side of a tub, even if it's a flat entry. You're wet. Is the floor wet? Do you have a rug, but does it slip out from underneath you? Do you have grab bars and things to hold on to? And then if you do fall, if you live alone, if you don't have a phone right there with you, even if you have a life alert, if you're unconscious, you can't press it. And again, so many people don't put them on or they charge them at night, but they're across the room. Well, in the middle of the night is another time that it's very common to fall. So, I have some people they charge it in the middle of the day when they're sitting watching TV in between meals because, yeah, nighttime, going in the bathroom, those are times. And a lot of those life alert kinds of things can be worn in the shower. So if you're setting that up for your loved one, ask the company about that because, yeah, it does you no good if you fall in the shower. I tell people to at least hang it right outside the door, put it like really needs to be where you can reach it from the floor.
yeah.
If people use a walker, put it on the seat of your walker so that you could actually press it. If you don't have one of those, having a cell phone, being able to hit 911 or call their family. A lot of people are embarrassed if they fall in the shower because you're naked.
Well, the other thing would be to be close enough to your phone to be able to say, "Hey Siri," you know, to do that too.
If,
But
and teaching your loved ones to use those devices,
yeah,
whether
I know.
it's your Siri on an iPhone, Alexa, Google, any of those smart home devices. Yeah, but having it within close enough that you could holler out. Yeah, because that would be another, if you have a Alexa or Google or whatever,
I'd
okay.
be afraid ours would, say,
But it would have to have it connected to the phone to be able to say, I don't want to say it because I don't want this to happen, but to say so and so, call 911. In order for it to do that, it would have to have a connection.
and ours would come up with some crazy story, you didn't say it right or, all that. The next one they talk about is medication, and we've talked again about that. You run into that all the time in where you're at, constantly having to think about medication, how they're structured, who can set it up, and all that. And it's another situation that they talk about in here. The effects of it don't always you don't always know it till it's almost too late.
So if someone lives alone and they're responsible for taking their medications, the basic is they have pill bottles, they have to open them up, they have to know when to take them, right? So you set them up with maybe a pill case, the Sunday through Saturday thing. And that way you can at least double check them. Did they miss medicine? That kind of thing. Because if you're either not taking what you need or taking too much of something, and especially depending on the type of medicine, that can cause some serious health problems. And like you said, it might not notice it right away. Oh, forgetting your blood pressure medicine, and you do it so much over the course of weeks or whatever, something happens, right? That blood pressure medicine is there to keep your blood pressure low, to reduce the risk of heart attack and stroke. And, or if you're on a blood thinner or diabetes medication, managing your blood sugar. I mean, there's so many things that if you miss a dose, one dose can even mess you up. But again, it's not often seen. And it's a common thing when something happens, right? They go in the hospital, they're sick, and they discover their nutrition is off, and their medications were not managed right. So it can be a really big problem.
Are you? they they used to sometimes compact. They could compact them in different
Pill
um,
packs.
pill packs. Are those
So a lot,
common, or are they? They're
yeah, a lot of pharmacies now, the VA won't, at least in our area, won't do it yet because we've got some people who get their medicine free from the VA and they won't do the packs. But we've got two local pharmacies that will put your medication in a pill pack. So things that people take regularly. They set it up. Um, if you take AM, say you take AM, noon, and evening, they can do up to 4 times a day, I think. And they put them in there and they're labeled with the date and time of day. And they give them to you a month at a time, I think. So you have like a whole week. It's about the
mm,
size of like a folder. Um, but you do have to be able to push out
yeah.
the pills out of the container. And my issue, we got a lot of people with vision issues where I work and low vision, and it's a silver packaging or white with black labeling, but it's not the largest. Um, but for people who are not challenged visually and are physically able to push the pills out of the packet, it's a great thing because then you can literally follow along and see the date. But people still mess those up. And I work in independent living where I can check on people as a therapist, but works out of the building. It's not even in a house all alone by yourself where you might go, a whole day or longer without seeing anyone or possibly even talking to anyone. And even if you're calling to check on your mom or whatever, yeah, I took my medicine. Well, it might not be accurate.
Yeah.
They
Or
have
too
to, they have
much,
to know
or
what day of the week it is. They have to, you know, they think they're taking it and they're not. So many different things can go wrong. There's also some really cool pill dispensers out there that'll set an alarm off. It'll go off at a set time of day. You can only get the medicine out at that time of day. There's a lot of different options now. But there's still that accountability that a person has to be capable enough to follow those directions. I just set off Google with saying capable to follow through with it.
the next one they go in is talking about isolation. We talked a lot
Mm.
about that, the being home alone, and sometimes your friends are already have passed and you don't have people coming by. You may not be able to drive, so you can't necessarily go anywhere. So it and we ran into it a lot with COVID. It really uh like your dad had a lot of issues with he couldn't get out and do the things he
Well,
wanted to
and he
do.
was
And
home with my mom, but that is still isolation from people. And, some people say, oh, I'm a loner. I'm not a group person, right? I'm happy to be home by myself. Yet, if you're not having the opportunity to interact with people, talk to people on the phone, engage with people in some way, your cognition's going to decline. Not to mention, are you physically active or not? Is this someone who lives home alone and they have a garden outside and they get out and they do things and keep themselves busy and friends come by and check on them? Or is this someone who sits in their chair and watches TV and maybe gets things to eat
mm,
and then sits in their chair and watches TV, um, and falls asleep in their chair? Um, yeah, there's a big risk factors there.
the next one they talk about is nutrition, and they talk about
Mm.
poor nutrition. And I think about our old neighbor. I used to see this all the time with her. I'd go over there to help out or do something. And one, opening a refrigerator was kind of a scary look, because there was,
Nothing in there.
yeah, she had pimento cheese, I think was her big thing. And bologna, I think, was the other one. And half the time she didn't want to eat and she didn't hydrate
And that is a huge problem. Um,
because it leads so much to,
so many people wind up with malnutrition, like they're diagnosed literally with malnutrition in the hospital. And you don't have to be skinny to be diagnosed with this. If you are not getting the proper nutrition, if you are not getting the minerals, the vitamins, the protein that you need, it's having a detrimental effect on many aspects of your body, your cognitive function, as well as your physical function with your body. And it's common to see this. And dehydration, people do not drink a lot of water. It's become much more pressing in my
think of that.
generation and even yours, possibly the baby boomers, to the importance of drinking water. But, even the baby boomers and definitely older than that, didn't grow up with those messages. And we've got people who The only water they drink is when they swallow a few pills.
Yeah.
I've met people who drink coffee and Pepsi,
Yeah, I know.
and that's all they drink. And they don't realize how depleting the caffeinated drinks are, that they're diuretic, they're dehydrating. So it's doing the opposite effect, and how important water is in our diet. Um, there was a man that moved into the independent living, and I knew right away he really needed a lot more care than independent living, and he wasn't attending the meals. The apartments have kitchenettes, but he didn't have really any food in there. And there was free ice cream in the activity room that could be accessed any time of day. It's like a soft serve ice cream machine. He was surviving on ice cream. Staff on the weekend would tell us he's going up to his room with 4 and 5 cups of ice cream, and we'd pay attention that he wasn't attending meals.
Wow.
So we at least had some awareness because he's living in an independent living facility. He's no longer living there. Didn't Was not able to live there very long at all, in fact. But someone's all by themselves. What you might be supplying food, but are they eating it? Loss of appetite can be a common thing. Medications can contribute to it. But between the dehydration and, yeah, not getting sufficient nutrition, it's a really common problem. And even if your loved one is overweight, you think they'll be okay. But
No.
sudden weight loss, even people who are overweight and want to lose weight, if you lose weight suddenly, that is really depleting to your body. It, leads to significant weakness, and it's not a healthy way to lose weight.
Well, then the next one is wandering, and that that sounds funny in a way, but it's not really when you have someone walk out on, into areas that and then get lost when they get out there and not know where to turn. Um, it can be, and it a lot of times they're again same thing. If you're not watching this person, if you're the son that's not calling every day, it could take a couple days before you even find out where they might have gone, and they may have gone to something that could end up killing them.
Someone has mild dementia, you think they're okay in their home. Oftentimes, if people have a routine established, everything's, smooth and running and they're managing. And family members often don't even see the dementia until something big happens. Well, the person goes to the store, maybe they're still driving to the store to get some basic groceries. They make a wrong turn one day. They get lost. They get turned around. That just threw off their whole routine. It can just, turn things upside down, and they knew how to drive from their house to the store and back, but now they're
Yeah.
thrown off, disoriented. That's going to cause, safety with driving. Uh, and then, people get lost. You have accidents that can happen, obviously, or even someone stepping outside of the house and taking a walk and then not sure where they are and getting lost and turned around, and don't know how, don't have coping strategies, didn't bring a phone with them, don't have the ability to reach out to find help. You actually have a friend whose dad wandered off.
These are
I'm not going to name names.
no, no.
Um,
I'm saying that
um,
probably would be,
and was found, I think, in a parking lot, deceased. And they could tell he hadn't fallen. He just had laid down on the ground. And it was kind of a peaceful thing. It was scary because he was in a facility and he had walked away and they didn't realize it right away. And as scary and crazy as it sounds, she was so grateful. He didn't get hit by a car. He didn't look like he fell on the ground. He just kind of laid down.
yeah.
But that's a scary thing, right? And so even if your loved one is at a facility, there's another story I know about, where a man lived on the memory care unit of an assisted living. So it's a locked unit with inside of a building. Medical EMS came for somebody else and they were holding the door open so that the EMS could get in. And one of um, the medics, the man said, I'm heading out, and no one knew he was a patient there. And there was no staff member standing at the door that should have been to identify who can go and who can't, because you can't always tell who's a visitor and who lives on the memory care unit. He got out, off the memory care unit, out of the building. The building sits on a busy road, somehow crossed the street. I forget how he got found. Luckily, he got found, and his wife moved him to a different building, to another place because that happened. So these things still can happen at your own home. Um, I met a family member one time who was caring for their mom, maybe, and they lived together, and she had no other support. And she had a camera in the home to keep an eye on her mom. And she'd go to the grocery store, and she said they knew her at the grocery store that if she's watching her mom on the camera, or if she got a phone call or an alert went off, she'd just have to leave the groceries, in the middle of checkout and go home to take care of her mom. That was the only system she had, for keeping an eye on her. You can set alarms on doors to as warnings, and different kinds of systems can be helpful. But the wandering, when someone has that early dementia, and you might not even think there's someone who's going to wander, but could quickly get turned around and lost, and then not be able to find them way back, and even have the coping strategies to knock on a door to get help. And you might think, oh no, they would know what to do. Don't assume that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the last part of it, they talked about kitchens, but what the big part of it, they talked about fire safety, because I just think about
Every time
even
I chuckle, it's because I can think of a story of my dad. When my mom had to tell him he was not allowed to use the stove anymore because she wasn't home, and he had tried to cook something and it caught on fire, and he took a plastic lid like you use in the microwave
and put over the top.
and used it to put the fire out. And of course, he didn't really remember what he had done. She just came home and saw the melted plastic lid. And I think I kind of uncovered that later, that, he knew he needed to cover it with something, but was not able to quickly grab a lid, um, a metal lid to do that with, and use the plastic.
I think about how many times I don't do it very often, but I do accidentally leave the stove. I've never left anywhere to do it, but if I can do it, and I'm fairly sane, um,
Not about being sane, Don. That's the
or
wrong
not sane, but
wording.
yeah, not the right word. Yeah.
But we all make mistakes, right? I can also remember, and you did this in your younger years, coming home and leaving your keys in the door. And then we go to bed at night. One time, didn't you leave them in the car? You went to warm the,
Well, I left the car running.
it was like a snow day or something, and you went out to run the
The
car,
van ran all night.
and yeah. So we all make mistakes. This is before he had stroke, and I know um, um, but yeah, so now you've got someone who's even older, these things that happen, you don't have any people quickly checking up and following up with them. Like Don's got his wife and his two daughters who live here who say, Dad, you forgot to turn the stove off. Yeah, there's a lot of safety hazards in dealing with the stove. Microwaves can be a whole lot better for people, but you can't put metal in the microwave. And
Yeah.
so that could be a big hazard, but it's generally safer, than the stove or the oven. So these are
Some
little
videos.
scenarios where different things and safety issues and caring for your loved one and things, little tips of things that you can do. So enjoy the videos with that. So I want to sit down at the kitchen table. There aren't arms on these chairs. So I want to get as close as I can. Turn around. Here I can use the side of the table to help support myself as I sit down. But again, someone needs to steady the chair if you're able to reach for it to lower yourself down. So I've got the support of the table to help me get up and down. And again, when I go to get up, it's always better to push from where you're at, but if you can't, you can use one arm on the walker, one arm on the table to stand up. I need to get in the bathroom. The doorway's not wide enough for my walker. The safest way to do this, turn sideways. then side step. If your therapist has you standing at the kitchen sink taking side steps, this is why. Once in, I can turn it around. Now that I'm in the bathroom, can I get up to the sink? Come all the way around. So when I'm standing at a sink, the counter is not going to go anywhere. So it's safer than the walker. So I can get up real close here, do what I need to do, can even lean on the counter. Sometimes it's helpful to turn the walker sideways to get closer. If the person is here with me, they could turn it out of the way. Again, tight spaces in a lot of bathrooms. I can take the walker, go over to the toilet. Now we have throw rugs on the floor. You see the throw rugs? Why do we not like throw rugs? Because I can get tripped on those. So it's good to move those and get those. See, it's getting caught right there. Throw rugs are bad. I can come in, pivot around. My feet are right here at the toilet. Is this a good idea? No, it's a towel bar. It's not a grab bar. The counter, that's sturdy. I even have the toilet here. I can lower myself on to go to the bathroom, and I can easily get up from here. So we positioned it to enter from my left side. I've adjusted the leg height so that it's level surface going flat across. To transfer from a wheelchair, it's usually best to kind of get a cornered angle to get from one surface to the other. Now, this is an extra tight space because of the toilet, and so this would not work for a really tall or large person. So we can scoop to transfer over, and then lifting one leg over, and then the other. And with the regular bench, you'd scoot across. With this one, it slides across. Again, a person who needs that much help would need a second person. So now I'm on the bench. Handheld shower hose enables me to wash myself safely. Installing grab bars, not towel bars, but grab bars would enable someone to stand. This bench comes with a cutout seat in it to make it easier to reach up underneath to wash. Again, this is a tight space. These little knobs press in for the sliding. One leg, the other leg. Make sure it's locked in place. And depending on the angle of where your chair is, you can either turn around to get up or do a transfer like that. So a lot of people want to kind of put the walker out of the way to go sit in a chair. Never recommend that. Using the walker.
Getting the pets out of the way.
Watching out for pets. You can turn with your walker. And all the way back, ideally, you feel the back of the chair with your legs. You're square in front. You reach for this as you bend to sit down. If you can, reach back with both hands. And then you can easily stand up from here, scoop to the front, feet back, push forward, nose over toes. So we always recommend removing throw rugs because we can get easily tripped. And yet, many of us, if we have wood floors, we want to throw rug down. We want it to track dirt and other things to keep it from getting on the rest of our carpet and things. Yet, whether you're using a walker or not, coming across a throw rug, even and get pulled up and get trapped under my feet like this. Sometimes people can't pick their feet up as high as they ideally would. So now we've got a safety issue here. If we're not even walking without a walker, it's easy to get caught up in this and trip, and it's a fall risk. Let's go upstairs, hold the railing. Hold the railing. Don, hold the railing. This is called a gate belt. Comes in different styles. This is a cloth one. I'm going to put this around your waist so I can hold on to you. in case you start to lose your balance. Gives me something to grab a hold of. All right, we got rid of the throw rug on the ground. I'm going to hold the railing. We're going to do one step at a time. So which leg is stronger? So go up with your right leg. I'm going to stand behind. If he starts to lose his balance, I'm right here. I'm paying attention to what we're doing. I have a level driveway. There's only 2 steps here to help someone get in, but we've got a safety hazard here. So I'm going to clean these leaves up. The path's a lot clearer. I removed the throw rug. And now I'm going to help Don get in the house. Come here, Don. Here's your walker. Again, it's good to stand behind. We're going to come over to the stairs. So there's some different options here. If there's only one step, go straight towards the side of the house. We can turn that way and do the one step up, or we can actually take the walker up the steps. So we're going to bring the walker up here. All right, and you can reach out, hold on. Now, typically we don't like grabbing a walker to pull up, but I'm stabilizing it down here. And then we're going to bring the walker in first before he moves, and then the final threshold step inside. And coming back down, we can reverse it. So we're going to, depending on the width of our steps, for him, I'm going to hold it here. All right, Don, let go of your walker. And I can do 2 things. This is too big for that. But I'm going to use my hand. Having a bar on the side of the house would be quite helpful. And now that we're here, we can step down. And now we'll just tumble you down the hill. So there can be many challenges with taking a loved one home. From a slanted driveway to a narrow driveway where there's not a lot of space here to get in between the cars. Very dangerous here going downhill. So being able to get in and out of the car, having the space to be able to do it. This door doesn't quite fully open with another car next to it. In our situation, it would be best to have the car either in the garage or at the bottom where it's flat to make it easier to have more space to be able to get in and out. There's also different heights of cars. From a sedan where it can be a whole lot easier to sit down and get into it. An SUV where you have to step up to get into the car creates different challenges, and all these vary depending on the height of the person that you're assisting.
And thank you for joining us today on Focused Healthy Family Podcast. If today's conversation helped you, please take a moment to subscribe, to like, to share this with someone else who might benefit. If stress, panic, or overwhelm become part of your daily routine, consider exploring Don's EFT Discovery Series. EFT tapping is often first described as this is weird, but then when people do it, they discover how well it works. People can be very skeptical, but when working with Don, he has many stories of how much they find it helps. And Don and I both use it for our own selves and our family. For wellness tips, caregiving resources, and more episodes, be sure to visit focusedhealthyfamily.com or focusedhealthyfamilypodcast.com. You can connect with us on social media. We're on Facebook at Focused Healthy Family. Instagram, we're at Focused Healthy Family 1. You can also watch this on YouTube at Focused Healthy Family, as well as listen to this anywhere you listen to podcasts. New episodes air every Thursday. And remember, Don is available to speak to organization, caregiver groups, healthcare teams, and community groups about practical ways to reduce stress and build resilience in caregiving environments.
For more information about booking Don to speak at your location, please reach out to schedule a presentation or a workshop. And remember, how you speak to your children and your loved ones today shapes their future and yours.